As I said in my previous video, when we portray a character, we want to describe or look into the character's physical and biological traits, his age, height, size, state of health, assets, flaws, sexuality, gait, and voice. We want to look into his psychological traits, intelligence, temperament, happiness, unhappiness, attitude, self-knowledge, unconscious aspects, interpersonal or cultural aspects, family, friends, colleagues, birthplace, education, hobbies, belief, values, lifestyle, personal history, major events in his life, including the best and the most traumatic. Make a summary of what the character is like. Show him or her through appearance. Show him or her through a habitual or repeated action. Finally, show him or her through a speech in a scene. Additional tips on character creation. Use a journal, like your reader response journal, to build ideas for character. Consider all the influences that go into the making of your character. Age, gender, race, nationality, marital status, religion, profession. Know about your character's inner life, what she wants, thinks, remembers, resents, fears, dreams, denies. Know about your character's behavior, what she wears, eats, buys, says, works at, and plays at. Know how your character speaks and how this changes according to context, mood, and intention. See and describe your character's contradiction and conflicts in order to create a complex person and also to generate plot. Remember, the four main methods of character presentation is summary, appearance, habit, and scene. So if you follow all of these tips, you'll be able to create very good characters. And so here, use a journal to build ideas for your character. So write down the kind of characters you want to have for your short story. And here is interesting. I went over it. Gender, is your character going to be female or male? Race, is he going to be African American, European American, Asian American? What race? Nationality, French, Spanish, Chinese. Marital status, is he going to be single, married, divorced? Religion, Buddhist, Christian. Profession, lawyer, doctor. And then know about your character's inner life. In other words, what does she want? So you could have, like in a Jane Austen novel, all of the characters want a husband. Okay, the characters wants, and what does she think? She thinks that the ideal husband will bring her happiness, because in the 19th century, the only way a woman could earn a living or get away from her family was to have a successful marriage, marry someone rich. What does she remember, resent, or fear? What does she dream about? So you got to know about her inner life. Know about your character's behavior. What does she wear? Okay, this was in Crazy Rich Asians. So we got to know what Astrid was like. And we got to know what the different characters, what they bought, I don't remember the name of the character, but there was one character who would spend an entire afternoon trying to buy a piece of jewelry. And she was so rich that the jeweler had would reserve time for her every week for her to come to buy jewelry. So she just spent all her time buying jewelry, and then she was so rich, so money was no object. And then her husband didn't like seeing her with jewelry, so she would buy the jewelry and then hide the jewelry in her house, under the bed, inside a jar, so that, because she was addicted to buying jewelry, like a shopping. It was some kind of flaw. So she liked to buy jewelry, and then when her husband wasn't around, she would wear lots and lots and buy lots and lots of jewelry. And then when her husband would come home, she would take the jewelry off. Anyway, so know what your character's behavior, what she eats, says, works, plays, and plays at. And then know how your character speaks and how this changes according to context, mood, and intention. And so, for instance, if your character is under a lot of stress, suddenly she's going to start speaking in her native language, or her native accent becomes very, very apparent. When she's not stressed out, she's able to maintain her proper British accent and sound very like she's part of the aristocratic, case. It's only when she gets angry or when she gets excited that suddenly she starts speaking in her pidgin English, and she comes from Scotland and Ireland, and she's not from the upper class. So then, that's how your character, her mood changes and her speaking changes. Okay, see and describe your character vividly, how she looks and moves and his or her surroundings. And in Jane Austen, I think there was a character who walked with a certain, she walked very gracefully, and she dressed in the most beautiful dresses. And when she entered the party, everybody stopped talking to look at her. Now that's an entrance. And then after she, exited the room, people would say things like, "Oh my God, Elizabeth is so selfish." And then they would be saying all these negative things about her. And that's one of the reasons why they stopped talking, because they were actually, before she came in, they were already saying negative things about Elizabeth. So when she came in, they all shut up. So part of it was her entrance, and then part of it was the way she was like a gracefully going across, like some flying across. It was like she was so graceful and so, she was so beautiful in her appearance, but then she's so selfish, like there's nothing on the inside. So that's how you create something beautiful on the outside, and then shallow and ugly, vain and selfish on the inside. And so that's how she moved with such gracefulness. That's the word. And her possessions and surroundings, it was her house, so her house represented or replicated her personality. She had the most beautiful furniture from around the world, and she had the most beautiful, everything she had was expensive, because she was so vain and she wanted to show off her surroundings, so that her possessions replicated or reflected her vain, empty, shallow, materialism, selfish personality. And then when she left the room, everybody started saying, like I said, how selfish she was. So basically, that's how you create. You focus on your character's contradiction, beautiful on the outside, ugly on the inside, in order to create a complex person and also to generate plot. So this made Elizabeth a very fascinating antagonist to the protagonist. They were both going after the same guy, okay? Both Elizabeth, I can't remember the name of the protagonist, but the protagonist is the opposite. She's naive, she's beautiful, but then she's like Cinderella, but her family is just not rich enough to dress her up so beautifully that when she walks into the room, everybody notices her, okay? Yet, obviously, the guy that all the women are gathered around, he's the one who makes the choice. And at first, he's dazzled by Elizabeth, and then later, Darcy, I think that's the name of the guy, Darcy then realizes that she's only beautiful on the outside, but ugly on the inside. And then the future wife, the protagonist, she's kind of ugly on the outside, but beautiful on the inside. So the character, the suitor, the guy, had to evolve. He's the one that evolves and changes his personality to fall in love with the protagonist, which would be a projection of the author. Someone naive, someone coming from a poor family, and that sort of thing. And so here you have Darcy, and both Darcy and the protagonist, since it's a love story, then both those characters are the protagonists of the story. I think it was Pride and Prejudice, off the top of my head. Yeah, and both of them fall in love at the very end. And Elizabeth doesn't get to have any husbands because she's so selfish, or something like that. And so here you have Jane Austen. Those are Jane Austen novels, are all like that. So these are tips on character creation and how, when you create a character, you want to create a real person. Then you want to create situations that when the characters interact with each other, then there should be situations in which real people would actually interact. This this would add dynamic, this would create a lot of conflict and make your story come alive. And that way your reader is able to have empathy and able to identify with the characters if you make your characters almost like other people. That's the beauty of literature. So this is going to be my last video on character analysis and how to create a character. In my next video, I'm going to write about the importance of setting. You can almost see it down here, okay, because I have it. All right, there we go. So the setting. How important is the setting and a sense of place in a story? So that's going to be my next video. So if you have any questions about how to create a good character, please feel free to email me.